All right. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Good evening, Source Nation. And first off, let's start this off right by wishing everybody a very happy new year, happy 2017. Wishing you great blessings in health, family, love, career, spiritual progress, and accomplishing your dreams, and everything else that you set your heart and mind to. Now, Source Nation, I have a request. I need you to be gentle and be easy with me. This is our first date tonight, and I want to make sure that I set it out right and exactly. So before we get it all started, make sure you get your coffee, get your wine, convert your water to wine, and I need you to make sure that you're passing my shoehorn because I'm trying to put my foot all up in tonight's topic. So share the link with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms. Now, once again, I'm your host, Dr. Samori Swygert, a.k.a. Doc Swag. And I want to welcome you to the Pendulum. Now, a pendulum. What is a pendulum? A pendulum, that's an apparatus that people associate with a clock. It kind of helps gauge time and space. It traverses through time in a constant backward and forward motion, retrograde to anterograde. This is what we'll be doing throughout the evening as I engage on these topics. Now, we have to make sure that we connect the dots from the past, the present, and the future. That's why I call it the pendulum. Now, this show is designed to encourage the 4 Ds, as was mentioned: debate, dialogue, discussion, and discourse. Gather your friends and family. We're going to prepare to travel from the past, the present, and we're going to have some discussions of the future implications and projections with the correlation to African Americans. From the world to the White House to the hood and everything good, the pendulum is swinging your way. Now, tonight's topic, very important topic. We have to have this conversation, no matter how uncomfortable or boring or whatever the case you may think it is. But the topic is breaking down black media. We have to talk about what is media, the importance and the scarcity, the growing scarcity of black media, the fate of black media, and the possible solutions under a Donald Trump administration. What does all of that mean? How do we wrap it all up? How do we make it relevant? How do we connect the past to this? So, first off, media. What do we think of when we think of media? Media, radio, journals, newspapers, magazines, media, periodicals, books, news shows, media, talk shows, movies, documentaries, media, blogs, video blogs, social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anything. Media is a vector. It's a conduit to convey content. That's media. But the most important thing that we have to keep our eye on is what is the narrative in the media and who controls and owns that narrative. That's what's important, and that's what we have to discuss. We're going to jump right into it. Remember, I said that tonight's topic is the fate of black media. Okay, so let's just jump right into this. First off, I want to talk about the power and the potential of media. The power and the potential of media before we even start correlating this with African Americans. Now, number one, media sets the tone and the historical narrative of the time. Like, people will search archive stories, they'll search reports, they'll search footage, audio, meetings, presidential addresses, campaign speeches, and et cetera. But also understand this, media can be weaponized in the form of propaganda. We think of how African Americans have been stereotyped. We can think of how Adolf Hitler, weaponized media under his propaganda, Joseph Goebbels. And he basically used media to bastardize and demonize Jews. Hitler used the media to justify and legitimize the extermination of Jews. So media it's a double-edged sword. You think of war. Media has the power to dictate and convince the consumers of media who are your enemies, who are radicals, who are militants, who are insurgents. Think of how Black Lives Matter was propagandized. You had pundits and anchors on Fox News calling them thugs and wanted to actually label protesters, nonviolent protesters, as terrorists. This is the power of media. Media has the power to vilify and demonize or canonize and lionize, shoot somebody into instant celebrity whom it seems fit. That's the power of media. Number two, Black media is the tool, it's the instrument, and it's the medium that we utilize and need to continue to utilize to express the voices, concerns, and issues of African Americans in the country. Number 3, the media, this is very important, this is key. The media is what's used for marketing businesses, products, and services. Think about this. When it comes to African Americans in the media, now, before we took break, I gave you a plethora of forms in which media is conveyed, right? Think about in music and videos. You had Pass the Cavassier with Busta Rhymes. You remember in the 90s, you had that famous slogan by Grand Puba, Jabot's hanging baggy, he'll figure at the top. You had Nelly with Stomping in My Air Force Ones, or we're always rapping about Rolexes and Lamborghinis. We're talking about these Learjets. So we're doing a lot of promotion in our media, but we are not really controlling the real media. So there are other external influences that are profiting from what we consume in our media. Number 4, the media is used for education and information. Once again, it's used for education and information, also entertainment. Now, if you remember in the Bible, it will say, I'm not even trying to get biblical, just making a quick statement, which says our people suffer from the lack of knowledge. So media, if utilized correctly, it will be for education, information, understanding data, and using that data, applying in your day-to-day routines to improve your life, right? Number 5, our mode of communication on crucial issues that mainstream media ignores. This is what's important, especially when we talk about black issues. See, you think about Flint water crisis in Michigan, right? How often do you turn on ABC, MSNBC, CNN, Fox? How often do they refer to what's happening in Flint? People still have not had clean, adequate water. Infrastructure for water has yet to really be constructed. We don't have continuing coverage about that. What's going on with that? We have untold stories of victims of Hurricane Katrina. Think about what happened with Standing Rock in North Dakota. In Standing Rock in North Dakota, you had the mighty Sioux Nation that were protesting against oil companies trying to build oil infrastructure from North Dakota down into the Gulf. And they said, look, you're trying to build this through our sacred lands. We have ancestors buried here, and on top of that, we don't want you tampering and possibly contaminating our water supply. They protested this. There was a media blackout. From August till about the end of October, none of the mainstream media covered the story. It was a media blackout. This is why it's important to own your media so your stories can be told, so your stories have priority and importance. If we don't own the media, if we don't control that, who knows what could have happened to those, the natives in North Dakota. They got their story out through people, independent news outlets, people sending cell phone videos and everything. So this is why it's important, because there are some things that happen that due to higher powers, your story may not get told. Okay, let's move along. Number 6, the media, it exposes the masses to a diverse and wide array of thinking via numerous speakers, personalities, and representatives of other ideologies. This is the development of a monolithic society. Everybody should be open and have the opportunity to have diverse ideas, opinions, philosophies. Number 7, the black media serves as a combat and defense mechanism to the offensive narratives and rhetoric that we hear on many news stations like Fox and Limbaugh. Now, I want everybody to flash your mind back. It was just recently. Think about how Roland Martin is on News One, owned by Kathy Hughes. Now, that's black-owned network. He debunked and surgically dismantled the alt-right representative, Richard Spencer, on News One. Roland Martin ripped him a new one. But what if we don't have these outlets where people can publicly see and challenge this alt-right representative, cross-examine him, scrutinize him, debate him, and take these individuals and groups to task so that our people can see this and be educated, so they can see that surgical-like debate strategy that Rowland imposed on Richard Spencer. We have to have these outlets. We have to own these so we can see this for ourselves. A lot of people don't have access to media. Now, black media can be the tool to support black standards of beauty. Now, this is very important. Black media can be the tool to support black standards of beauty. Why is this important? When we look at a lot of our African-American young ladies, when they turn on the TV, from commercials to Revlon or Sports Illustrated, or whether they're selling a car, the black female, the African-American female, the melanoid female image is not the one that they post up as beauty. It's not the image that people are seeking after according to industry standards. But when we control the media, we redirect it from Eurocentric standards of beauty, which has become ubiquitous and ever-present in the majority of white-owned media, right? Number 9, media has the ability to subliminally prioritize and stratify life, minimize life, or maximize life. What do I mean by that? Samori, what are you talking about? You think about Natalie Holloway. You think about JonBenet Ramsey, right? Now, CNN just had an expose about a week ago on JonBenet Ramsey. Now, that was an unfortunate, horrific murder of a little girl, but it happened almost 2 decades ago. They just reopened a whole new expose about the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. But from almost 2 decades, how many girls, children of color, have gone murdered or been abducted, and you don't have any expose about that? The most thing you'll probably get is a mention about them before the meteorology forecast at the end of evening news. But when you have the power to control your media, you place priority on the lives that you see fit. So this is why it's important. And media has the power to create celebrity. If you think I'm joking, you go ask Kim Kardashian. Okay? Now, let's move along, because this is the pendulum. I have to go into the past, right? And then resurrect it to the future. So let's talk about some historical examples of black media so we get a good understanding of everything. Ebony and Jet, these were owned by Johnson & Johnson Publications. Johnson Publications was started in 1945, and I think in about 2014 it recently sold to Clearview Group of Austin, Texas, and J.P. Morgan. Now, you still have, I believe it's the daughter of the owner that sits on the board, but is not completely owned anymore by the Johnson family. Number 2, we have Black Enterprise, 1970. We're going through these media. We're going to go through these media, black-owned media. Black Enterprise, 1970. Earl Grey founded Black Enterprise magazine, and this publication is centered around black finance and economics. It has a 3.5 million people readership. You had The Liberator by William Lloyd Garrison. Now, William Lloyd Garrison was a white man, and this was published in 1831, but William Lloyd Garrison was an abolitionist, and his main focus, the onus of his work, was on the liberation and the emancipation and abolishing of slavery. So we'll put that in the corner because it serves our purpose. Number 4, let's talk about this sister right here. I love and respect this sister, adore her. Sister Ida B. Wells. She wrote for the Free Speech and Headlight News, the Living Way weekly newspaper. And in 1892, Ida B. Wells published a pamphlet titled Southern Horrors, Lynch Law in All Its Phases. In 1895, she wrote The Red Record, and that was a 100-page pamphlet describing lynching in the United States since the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, why am I saying this? Because now, in the new millennium, we have a wide array of methods in which we can consume media. You know, we have our smartphones, we have TV, we have radio, we have news, we have e-books, all of that. Back then, though, in the mid to late 1800s and the early 1900s, it was all print and maybe a Marconi radio. So this is what I'm talking about. It's important that we understand where we're coming with this, right? Now, number 5, the Negro World in 1918. Amy Ashwood and Marcus Garvey of the UNIA, they published the Negro World. And at its peak, it said that they were publishing 500,000 copies a week. Number 6, you had The Messenger, August 1917. This was by A. Philip Randolph and Chandler Owen. It was a literary and politically based content, and that contributed to the Harlem Renaissance. Number 7, you had The Crisis magazine, and that was published, it was the official magazine of the NAACP, and that was published in 1910, and that was started by who? None other than W.E.B. Du Bois. He was the founding editor. 1923, we had The Opportunity magazine, and this was an academic publication by the National Urban League, and this was also a big contributor to the Harlem Renaissance. 1905, we had The Chicago Defender, and this was by Robert, and it was the focal newspaper that encouraged blacks to leave the South and come to the North in what we affectionately call the Great Migration, right? Now, let's talk about Gil Noble. Now, Gil Noble was a famous African-American broadcast journalist. He had the famous show called Like It Is, and it featured many Afrocentric interviews, topics of discussion. And if you're from New York, you definitely know what I'm talking about. Number 11, Tony Brown's Journal. Many people know exactly what I'm talking about. Tony Brown actually was a professor at Hampton within like the last decade. Tony Brown, also a member of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. That was a very great fraternity, matter of fact. 1978, PBS, they aired his first show, Tony Brown's Journal, and it focused on many African-American centered themes. Number 12, you had Percy Sutton. Now, Percy Sutton was the co-owner of Apollo Theater, but also he was a co-founder of Inner City Broadcasting Company, and he was the owner of the New York City's famous WLIB radio. And that featured many African-American centered genre and content, fairly important. Now, here's the take-home when we talk about historical influence on black media and on the nation. It was black media from Johnson & Johnson publication that did what? It showed the maimed and mutilated corpse of Emmett Till. That's what brought the case to national attention. It brought it to notoriety. If it wasn't for Emmett Till's mother, Mamie Till, that had that dialogue with Johnson & Johnson publications and saying, look, no, I want the nation to see what they did to my boy, it wouldn't have got the attention and the press coverage that it did. That was Johnson & Johnson publication. So these are the things that I'm talking about that's important. So we went over the importance, the power, and the potential of media. We talked about the historical emphasis, the historical impact, the historical contribution from our ancestors and our elders on media, right? But now the pendulum is swinging forward. The pendulum is swinging forward. I hope you're still riding with me. We have to discuss the changing dynamic and the face of black media. There are deaths, there's termination of contracts, and there's corporate takeovers that's happening, okay? And we have to discuss that. So we can start with, like I said, you had the death of Gil Noble. That was very recent. I think Gil Noble may have passed in 2012 or 2014. That was very important. That was a medium that is gone. It's gone. Can't be replaced. We can get some new shows, but Gil Noble cannot be replaced. He tackled the hard issues, interviewed Malcolm X, and a whole bunch of things. Now, we have the changing of the guard at BET. Now, everybody knows about that. BET is now owned by Viacom. It was owned by Bob Johnson. And everybody remembers, like, the content we had with Teen Summit, BET Nightly News, Ed Gordon. But, it's changed now. It's no longer owned by Bob Johnson. But let me just say something real quick, because I know some people are tuning in right about now. People come into the show at various times. Let me just reintroduce myself. My name is Dr. Samori Swygert, a.k.a. Doc Swag. You're tuned into the Pendulum on Source Radio Network. And tonight on the Pendulum, we're discussing black media, the fate and state of black media under a Trump administration, and we're going to get into that. Now, we're talking about the changing face of black media, how we may be losing power. We saw the death of Gil Noble. We saw that BT was sold to Viacom. We just witnessed the death of Gwen Ifill. We saw how Donna Brazile took a very big L in this whole controversy with Hillary Clinton running for president nominee. Her credibility, her whole reputation has been tarnished. We saw the termination of Melissa Harris Perry from MSNBC. And this is what you're seeing now. During the Obama administration, there was a lot of press and media jobs for African Americans. I guess they were trying to show some inclusiveness to match the diversity. Well, let me not say the diversity. Match the first African American president. But we're now seeing this stuff being weaned back. It's being tapered off. Al Sharpton once had a daily show, has now been reduced to a once-a-week show. We remember what happened to Van Jones when President Trump, down before he gets inaugurated, when the election was done, Van Jones said this was a white lash against black America. Do you remember the immense blowback that he got from that? Van Jones had tremendous blowback from saying that. We can think of how Roland Martin was released from CNN. And that was from, they say it was an insult to the LGBT community. I think it was a Dallas football player, that had on pink warm-ups, and I think he was like something along the lines of him being a sissy or something like that. But CNN cut him right then and there. Like, they did not renew his contract. But here's the thing. Think about this. Don Imus said he made this insult about black girls that were playing basketball. He called them nappy-headed hoes. But he didn't lose his show. So, Roland lose his show, but Don Imus can call black girls nappy-headed hoes and keep his show. So now we're starting to see the introduction of the double standard. The other thing that we have to think about is WBLS, WLIB, they're now owned by MS Communications. There are so many terrestrial radio stations that were black-owned being bought up by these massive telecommunications companies. You have MS Communication. KISS is not black-owned. KISS falls under iHeartRadio, which is under Clear Channel. You have Clear Channel and Heart Radio, and iHeartRadio is owned by Bain Capital. Remember Mitt Romney, Bain Capital? So iHeartRadio is owned by Bain Capital. You have Sirius XM, which is dominating in the satellite market. So this is what you're seeing here. It's so many different things. Through deaths, through termination of contracts, through corporate takeovers, you're seeing a weaning away of blacks in the media. And when you see that weaning away, you have to ask, well, what is there to speak of when it comes to our issues? So that pushes me to this. The power of digital control, the power of media censorship. Why must we have our own media? Why must we control our own media? Let me tell you why. If you pay attention, there's been a lot of instances of people talking about them being banned, being blocked, having their pages, social media pages taken down by Facebook, people being thrown in Facebook jail, removal of posts from Twitter and Instagram, removal of videos from YouTube and websites. Why? Because you don't own your content. When you own the platform, when you own the infrastructure, when you own the cell towers, the satellite towers, all the infrastructure, then you can keep whatever content you want. Until then, you're at the mercy of the people whose networks you're on. Think about this. Breitbart News, very conservative, ultra-conservative. They are responsible for pushing the media and bolstering the rise of the Tea Party and this new alt-right, well, quote-unquote new alt-right. That's Breitbart News. Think about the media when it comes to the arrest of Amy Goodman, the host of Democracy Now! Amy Goodman went out to North Dakota to cover Standing Rock, and they arrested her. She didn't have any weapons or anything, and she may have been armed with like a mic and a camera, but that's about it. You had the arrest of an Al Jazeera reporter in Egypt with claims that he was provoking sedition. And then we have what's happening now as fake news. There was no such thing as fake news until after the election. Now, unless you want to count Brian Williams and the lies he told, that's fake news, or the weapons of mass destruction that we found out. But fake news, now what this is this is a creative way where if you have independent alternative news that mainstream media may not want to be heard, like Standing Rock, they can easily brush it off and say, oh, this is fake news, and we're going to legitimize mainstream media. Your CNN, your MSNBC, your ABC, your Fox News, these are your real news outlets. Anything outside of that is fake news. And from that, they control the narrative and they control what's getting discussed and what's getting ignored. So we have to pay attention to that. If you actually see something, you see a cop harass somebody, shoot somebody, and you have it on video, and you put it out through the media that you can, is that fake news, or is it the fact that they're just not airing it? Now, the other thing we must talk about is the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012. This was in the National Defense Authorization Act. The Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012 said that the United States government okayed it, the Congress okayed that they can create propaganda. They can manipulate news and the truthfulness of news and push it out to the globe, but they cannot use that disinformation on the American citizens. That was the Smith-Mundt Act. The Modernization Act of 2012 said, listen, you can use manipulated news on the American people. So this is in the National Defense Authorization Act. It's in the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012. So the Congress has okayed that, yeah, we can push manipulated news or propaganda on the American people. Research it yourself. The other thing about news that we have to think about right now, especially as African Americans in America, what are we seeing here? We're seeing the normalization and the sanitizing of the imagery of hate groups. CNN and A&E, CNN, it was this summer, they were doing an expose on the KKK. They had this African-American male, he was a comedian, and basically his job during the expose was to kind of follow, tag along with members of the KKK and basically kind of make it seem like they're this innocent, benign, misunderstood group that America should rethink as normal. Like, we know the history of the KKK. We have photos. We have evidence. Why would you be putting something out there like this? Would you do that with German Nazi soldiers? No, you would not. And you had A&E that was about to do the same thing, but then they rescinded the contract. Now, here's something else. Let's talk about the media. The BBC reported that as of January 2016, over 85,000 copies of Hitler's Mein Kampf, that was Hitler's book, his autobiography, had been sold. Meaning because it was out of print, and then they put it back into print. And as of January of last year, it sold over 85,000 copies. What is circulating in the media? That says a lot. 85,000 copies sold. Okay? The other thing I want to mention, there is a famous internet troll for Breitbart News. His name is Milo Yiannopoulos. And Simon and Schuster, once again talking about print media, Simon and Schuster, many of you are very familiar with Simon and Schuster. They are a very big famous publishing house. Simon and Schuster gave Milo Yiannopoulos a $250,000 book deal. This is the same internet troll for Breitbart News that called the black female actor from Ghostbusters, Leslie Jones, called her an ape. He's mocked disabled citizens. He's attacked the LGBT community. He's also disrespected women. But once again, when you own your media, you can empower whoever you want. So this is why we need to start thinking about it. Now, that I want to point out is this. The UK Guardian, it's European press, they actually did a great job. When African Americans, we've been it's not like we stopped, but when you see all of the unarmed shootings of African Americans, the media wasn't really tallying. They weren't recording and reporting. The UK Guardian got together and they did a statistical analysis and they built a repository of all the citizens killed by police in America, and I think maybe like the last 3 or 4 years, when our American media scurried away and absconded from that. So this is the power of media. So now, what are the conclusions and the goals, the solutions that I'm talking about here, right? Where do we need to go? Where do we need to go? As black news media, we have to be vigilant stewards of our stories, our imagery, and our issues. The onus is on us. We have to clearly and unapologetically articulate our issues, our concerns, and our plight through the media. And, even though we seem like we don't have enough control, because you have like the big six when it comes to telecommunications, like you have like your Disney, your Viacom, Comcast, all of that. But we have our outlets, but we have to build more. Like you have Kathy Hughes, who owns News One, Radio One. You have Byron Allen, African American male, I believe he's in California, doing very big things, very, very big things. We have to start corralling our resources, really coalescing. We have to develop our own, we seriously have to make sure that we are developing competent, confident, independent journalists, reporters, investigative reporters. We have to make sure that we have the money to finance our distribution outlets, our technology hubs, and technology nexus. Important that we coalesce and form our conglomerates, and it has to be a source of continuing empowerment. We have to make sure that we're voicing our issues and we're pioneering a presence into the future. We have to remove ego. We have to remove the jealousy and the celebrity of cyber real estate. What I mean by that, there are many people, there are many African Americans that have a lot of power when it comes to cyber real estate, digital real estate. And what I mean by that is this. Cyber real estate, there are people that may have 1 million followers, 500,000 followers, 4,000 followers, 10 million followers. That is cyber real estate, because once you put something out, it goes viral instantly. But the thing is, a lot of people don't want to coalesce and come together because they don't want to share. They want to stay empowered. They want to feel like they're the only one. They want to isolate themselves. They want to be exclusive. They want to feel like a celebrity. But in the case when we're talking about African Americans and trying to build our own media force, we have to come together, remove the ego, remove the jealousy, remove the celebrity, and consolidate everything. Now, here's another thing. We need to really start reaching out and connecting with our HBCUs that are making great technological strides. Hampton University launched their own satellite, and they erected a direct broadcast antenna for satellite data. So, hello, Sirius XM, you might have competition. Maybe Byron Allen needs to holler at President Harvey at Hampton University about some satellite info, black-owned. All right? We must start owning more telecommunication and broadcasting infrastructure such as signal towers, satellites, and broadcasting stations. The other thing, it doesn't stop there. we also have to get political, meaning we have FCC boards that we have to get a hold of. We have to gain control of these positions because they govern much of the media. The Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, we've got to get all up in their business and all up in their mix and get our people to really represent us. So you're saying, well, how does that happen? Well, guess what? This is why I say it all ties in under the Trump administration. The FCC is ran by what? 5 commissioners. How do you get the 5 commissioners? The President of the United States nominates them. The President of the United States appoints them. So the FCC is ran by presidentially appointed people. The administration, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen if the FCC is controlled by 5 commissioners and the President of the United States is responsible for appointing them? What do you think is going to happen? Let's put our common sense together. Let's connect the dots. And these positions are 5-year terms. Now, the only thing that kind of gives it a little bit of equity, but it's still not, is 3 of the 5 members can be of the same party. You can't have more than 3 in the same party. So you can have 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats, 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans, but either way, the president appoints there. So I'm pretty sure he'll probably find somebody that may be moderate leaning towards his ideals. The other thing that we have to talk about is the Office of Communications Business Opportunities. This is under the FCC, and they promote the telecommunications business opportunities for small, minority-owned, women-owned businesses. The Office of Communication Business Opportunities works with entrepreneurs, industry, public interest organizations, individuals, and others to provide information about FCC policies, increase ownership and employment opportunities, and make sure there's diversity and viewpoints on the airwaves. So it's not just money, like, well, we need our millionaires and billionaires to throw money so we can get open up radio stations. It's also political because we got to get those FCC seats. We have to groom people to be ready to assume this politically. And then lastly, it's really grouping money together. We really have to learn, like people always talk group economics. They mention Claude Anderson, Dr. Claude Anderson. We got to practice group economics. They mentioned Dr. Amos Wilson. We got to practice group economics. But truly, if our concerns, our feelings, our issues, our plights are to be heard, Republican Senate, House, and Senate. We've got the Supreme Court, right? And it's just that they're Republican, but when you hear the rhetoric, it's one thing to be conservative, but when you hear the rhetoric that's spewing forth from this alt-right, you have to question what is in the future of African Americans and how can we change that. So we have to make sure that we are financially contributing to make a difference towards our future, owning this media so we can own our imagery. We have to own how we are portrayed, the messages that's conveyed and displayed. So with that being said, I really hope that shoehorn was kind of there. I hope that I did what I said I was going to do. You know, it's about time for me to start wrapping it up for the evening. I hope the Pendulum ride was courteous to you, gracious to you. I hope it was a very good ride. And once again, I have to give a shout-out, and I have to thank our sponsors. We have Scott Cares Foundation, Urban Grandstand Digital, Meet My Types Matchmaking, Cat Photography and Hits Masters, New Covenant Appraised Worship Center, and PS Photography. Also, Source Nation, if you want to reach out and contact me, you can hit me on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is at DocSwag06. That's DocSwagg06. You can reach my personal website, and that is www.blackladder.net. www.black, like the color, ladder, like you climb, .net, not .com. You can also go to Facebook fan page, 2MASC, 2 minutes and some change. That's what it stands for, 2MASC, 2 minutes and some change. And you'll see a lot of posting and material that I do with a lot of my friends from 3HM, the Three-Headed Monsters in the building, all the way from New York to Kansas City. You can also find me on YouTube. You can just type in my name, Samori, Samori, last name Swygert, Swygert. You can type that into YouTube and see a lot of videos that I've done. I work with Dr. Boyce Watkins with Your Black World and Financial Juneteenth. A lot of good creative stuff there. And lastly, I want to introduce you to a treat. It will definitely broaden your horizons, I think. And that is, I want you to check out my album. The album is entitled Porn, Porn, but it stands for, it's an acronym, an acrostic. It stands for poetry, oration, rhythm, and narrative. And that's what Porn stands for. And it's a very good album, poetry, and it's all original music by Hampton University, Howard University, and Norfolk State music majors. Now, a little bit about myself, because I didn't go into that earlier. I am a graduate of Hampton University. I have a bachelor's and master's from Hampton University. I also have a doctor of pharmacy from Howard University. I am a practicing pharmacist. I am an author, a poet. I do a lot of things. I'm working on 2 documentaries as we speak. So there's a lot going on. I have an audio book. So when you go to Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, and CD Baby, just type in my name, Samori, Swygert, Swygert, and you'll find my album Porn, and you'll find my audio book, Speak on It, Mandatory Conversations for Black America. So that's what we're working with. And once again, you know what? Look, before I go, because I only have just a few minutes, put me up on it, but just a few minutes. Let me give you some stats to take home with you before we get off. Quick stats for you. African Americans, when it comes to radio, we listen to, and these are Nielsen ratings. These are Nielsen rating statistics. 12 hours of radio weekly versus the general population that listens to 6 hours of radio weekly. African Americans watch the most television of any group, watching nearly 200 hours per month, roughly 60 more hours than the total audience. 52% of black consumers in Nielsen survey were more likely to be voracious readers of magazines, which is 30% higher than the general population. 59% of African Americans agreed that advertisers in black newspapers specifically know how to connect with black audiences. Because of black strong affinity for culture-rich content, general market outlets have established niche websites that offer a space for African American-inspired stories on digital platforms, meaning like Black Voices on the Huffington Post, owned by Ariana Huffington. She's a white female with great content, but they have Black Voices, and so that brings in a black demographic to their audience. Also, that means that they're getting active when it comes to advertising. Something else when it comes to radio, peak listening hours are between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., with 61% listening occurring outside of the home. And then on a monthly basis, blacks spend close to 56 hours using apps or mobile internet browsers on their smartphones, and about 2.5 hours watching videos on their smartphones. Additionally, 81% of African Americans are more likely to show support for a favorite company or brand using social media, meaning if your favorite shoe is whatever the case, your Nikes, or your, as OJ said, his Bruno Magli's, will be spending a lot of time up on social media. I got my new Nikes, I got my new Bruno Magli's, and we're doing their promotion for them. And 76% are more likely to share opinions by posting reviews and ratings online. So we're being studied. And all this extra time that we spend watching TV and on our smartphones, consuming media, listening to radio by the hours. It's a matter of what is the quality and the nature of the content that we're spending so much time consuming. Is it empowering? Is it educational? Is it informational? Is it inspirational and motivational? What impact does this have on our psyche and our spirit? Will it force us to take action and try to make change? These are things we need to talk about when it comes to black media. Hopefully we'll see an increase in the rise in black media over this administration. Hopefully we'll coalesce. Hopefully we'll raise money. Hopefully we'll start getting more telecommunication and broadcasting infrastructure. And hopefully we'll try and get some of these FCC commissioner positions. Well, under Trump, we already know he appoints. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, the pendulum is out. Doc Swag is leaving the building. I hope you have a great evening. Source Nation, be blessed. I'm out of here. Peace.